Hi everyone, my name is Tom Smalling and I'm a digital design instructor at a technical college. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a soapbox. So we're going to do this project inside of Adobe Illustrator, and first I'm going to show you how to make just a simple box template in Illustrator. And while I'm giving you dimensions, there's no reason why you can't go above and beyond and change the box. Second, we're going to use just two colors. So we're going to get away from the CMYK printing and we're going to go down and use two Pantone colors. And I'm going to show you, even with two Pantone colors, how you can still get a rich looking design for your client. And finally, we're going to work on making a 3D view of this. So inside of Illustrator, we have some 3D tools. So I'm going to show you how to take and map each one of these faces onto a 3D object inside of Adobe Illustrator. So let's get started. All right, everyone. So let's go ahead and let's talk about getting set up to make a soapbox inside of Adobe Illustrator. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make a new file. Now, one of the beauties of this project is we can fit it on a single 8.5 by 11 template. So in this project, I've given you some very specific dimensions, and it's actually pretty easy. And I actually have a Dove soapbox that I will have you actually measure, look at, so you actually know how to set all this up. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how I would do this knowing what I know. So first things first, let's just go ahead and make the actual front face of the box. So it's going to be 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And I know if there's a front, there's also going to be a back. So I can hold Alt and I can duplicate it. Now for the sides, I'm going to go ahead and I can just use a transform panel. It's going to have a width of 1.25. So there's side number 1 and side number 2. And notice how I'm just lining things up and I'm getting them nice and aligned. So there I have my round area of the box. Now I have to do the two top parts, so the two top tabs. So they're going to be, again, they're going to have a width of 2.5 and a height of 1.25. So this is the side here, and this is the side here. So you see, I already have an easy template happening. Now I need to add in things such as tabs because I need to be able to glue this. So the easiest way to do that, again, hold Alt, duplicate this shape over. And now I'm going to make this half the size. So I'm just going to drag it in until I hit that center. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the direct select tool and I'm going to grab an individual anchor point. And I'm going to drag them in somewhere around 0.8, whatever. So there, now I have a tab. And for some of these other shapes, I'm going to do the same thing as well. I'm going to drag them down. I'm going to make them about a 1/2 inch tall. And again, I'm going to use a direct select tool, drag them in, maybe a little less, so 0.11 is good. So there's 1. There's 2. Number 3 here. And I can use my direct select tool. And I can drag these out as well. So there we go. I have tabs on one side. Now I just need tabs on the other. I can use my reflect tool. And I can reflect these vertically. Nope. Horizontally. There we go. And I can move them up. So quickly, easily, in just a couple minutes, I've made a template. Now, let's go ahead and let's clean this template up and let's really get it ready to go. So first things first, when I print it, I don't need all these black lines. I do have double lines happening. So what I'll do is I'll grab my direct select tool, I'll click, and I'll start deleting a couple of those inside lines. There we go. Get rid of that one, and last one, get rid of that one. So now, oop, there's a double line there, get rid of that one. There we go. I've gotten rid of all those double lines. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna make it 0.25. I'm gonna go ahead, change the stroke and make it a dash line, 2 points. So now, you guys will notice, I have a good template. I have a nice light lines. They'll still be there, but they're pretty light by now. So now I'm going to go ahead, grab everything. I'm going to lock them. And I can also even make a new layer, and I can call the layer template. And I can actually, here, let me grab them. I'll put them on my template, and I'll just lock the whole layer. So now we can do all our artwork on this layer, and then we have a template of line work. So now I know exactly how everything appears, and I'm ready to start actually making my box. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to print this, and I'm going to tell it to print to the 750, and I'm going to do setup, continue, preferences, and I want to tell it right here to do the manual feed tray, because we're going to actually feed in some heavyweight paper, so when you cut it, it comes out perfectly. So go ahead, hit OK, hit print, and hit print. And now the printer is going to ask for you to put in that heavyweight coated, and now you can actually start working with the folds and how you're going to lay out the artwork. All right, so let's talk about cutting out our project. So you see here, and it might be a little hard to see the lines, but I have my dash line. So we're going to use an X-Acto knife to actually cut this out, along with a metal ruler. So what you're going to do, you're going to put the knife out, and remember, be careful. It's a very sharp edge. It'll definitely cut you. But just like you would draw with a pencil, you're just going to follow over and cut over these lines with this. So the way to cut, you don't want to hold the knife up and down. Instead, you want to keep the blade kind of down and just drag straight across. And you'll notice it gives a nice, smooth, perfect cut. So it definitely takes a few attempts to try to cut this out. But what you're going to do is just drag right along and just keep cutting them out. So I do the outside edges first, and then I start working my way in. So an outside edge there, outside edge here, now I can start getting these inside flaps. Work on getting the big one. And again, I have years of experience doing this, so I can roll through it a lot quicker. I just expect you guys to do your best with it. There we go. All right, so we're almost there. So what I'm going to do now for all my little flaps, I'm going to go ahead and just cut off the edges. You could use a ruler, you could do it by hand. For me, I find it easier just to do it by hand. That was not the best cut there, but take your time. Alright, so now that we've cut everything, we can actually fold our box and make sure everything is okay. However, if you've ever tried folding paper, you know it can be really hard to make a perfect fold. So another trick we can use with this blade and the ruler, we can do what's called scoring. So to score this, what we're going to do, we're going to lightly drag the knife over each fold. And as I do this, it's going to start to cut the paper. And that way it makes it real easy to make your folds. That's part of the reason why we have all the lines here. So let's see, I got one more here. Now, you have to be exact when you score it because it'll easily fold right along these lines. So again, you're just lightly dragging the blade across, just cutting the top layer of paper fibers. And now that I've done that, close the blade. Now that I've done that, watch. I can easily, and see how it folds right along that edge? Folds right along each and every edge where I cut it. And you just got to give it a little bit of help. And now I can start to play with the box. I could glue it, fold in all the edges, and then I have to decide where the top is, where the sides are, and then I would recommend actually drawing on here arrows showing you exactly which way the artwork goes. So now that we have our template ready to go and we've kind of cut it out, we've checked it, and we've probably marked up which direction things should be facing, now it's time to start getting ready to actually build this project. So the first step, one of the constraints I'm giving you is you can only use 2 colors. So to do a 2-color job, you have to use an actual specific swatch. So that means we have to use something like the Pantone color system. So in this case, you're going to pick 2 color swatches, but we can extend those swatches by using tints inside of Illustrator. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to get this ready to put in the swatches. So one of the first things I like to do, I grab my swatch panel here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it a list view, and I'm going to just delete all the swatches I'm not using. So I'm going to keep registration, and if you don't know what registration is, it means that color shows up on all the plates. And I'm going to keep white and black just so I have them. But the rest of these swatches, I'm going to hold shift and just delete them. I'm going to do this because it makes it real easy for me to clean up my swatches and just keep things organized. Now, let's go ahead and let's load in my colors. So I've already looked at a Pantone book. I have an idea where I'm going. So I'm going to go ahead and just click that little library, color books. And I'm using the Pantone solid coded manual. So I go ahead and I pull that up. And now I can search for them by numbers. So the first one I want is 321. And the second one I want is 412. And that's the darker one. So I have a nice teal and a nice dark brown. So let's go ahead and let's just set up our tints so you can kind of see how this works. So what I would normally do if I'm designing this, I had a small fix I just remembered. Let's go back to our template real quick, unlock it, select everything. You can do that just by clicking that dot, and turn off the fill. You don't need a fill on your template. Lock it, and let's go back to my artwork here. So now let's start getting these tint swatches set up. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw a box, and I'm going to fill it with my Pantone color. So that right there is 100% color, and I'll zoom in a little bit. Let's take this down. And now let's go ahead and let's create our first tint swatch. So let's take it down to 90. And then we'll take another one, 80, Control D, Control D, Control D. And I can keep working down this list real quick. And I'm just going to do every 10. You could do more if you need it. I really don't think you do, but you can if you do. 20, and last one is 10. and then 0 would be white, which is paper. So I have my ramp here set up for my first set. Now let me go ahead and select it, duplicate it, so I'm just holding Alt as I drag across, and then fill it with that one, and notice it'll fill with all those tints as well. So now I have a good set of colors with a good gradient ramp. I can actually make a color group. I've experimented with making these new color group. Let's try this one. There you go. So see, there's my color group 1. Select them, new color group, and here's my color group 2. So you guys notice I have all those swatches loaded, ready to go. So now I can just point and click easy, grab what I need to. So that is how we get tints set up inside of Illustrator for the Soapbox project. Now that we have the tint set up, let's go ahead and keep moving forward. So I could develop my artwork on this template actually using things rotated, but I'll be honest, I think that's kind of hard. So what we're going to do instead, I'm going to go ahead and add some artboards for each one of these faces of the box. So first things first, let's go ahead and let's just edit artboards. So for artboard 1, I'm going to go ahead and give it a name, and this is going to be called my flat artwork. And now let's start making a new artboard. So right next to it, if I just hit this, I can make a new artboard, but we need to adjust some sizes. So we're going to name this one top, and the size we're going to do, the width of this one, and make sure your reference point is probably the top left, that's the easiest. So the width for this one, we are going to go 3.5. And the height is going to be 2.5. So that is our top face, which would fit one of these boxes. If I hold Alt, I can drag down, make another duplicate copy, and I can call this a bottom. Now we have a front, so let me hit New. And I like to align things just because I do. So for our front is going to have the same width, but our height is going to change because it's only 1.25. Same thing for our back. Make one new one. Now for our left, the size here is a little bit different. It's not 3.5, it's 2.5. And we're going to call this, we'll do left, and then we'll do one for right. So that right there gives us all of our boxes, all of our faces for our box here. So now I can easily design here and then actually put it on the template here as I go. And I could actually label these, but I'm going to go ahead and build it because I already know where things are going. So I already have an inspiration for this project, and that inspiration is this marine graphic. And I got this graphic from a vector pack from, probably from Envato, I believe. I don't exactly remember. I got it years ago. And, you know, I spent, I don't know, maybe $100, and I got thousands and thousands of vector objects. And I like that because it gives me a lot of different options. So I like this look, and this is the look I'm going to go for my soapbox. And then I have another element right here that I'm going to use. And then I'm also going to take and use one of these frames here. And I'm just using this to make my life easy. I expect you guys to actually design your own, but since I'm doing this as a demonstration, I'm going to go a little quicker. So from here, I am going to go ahead and speed up the video. You're going to watch me use some of the elements, change some of them, and do different things. And when we're done, I'll talk about actually putting together the soapbox. So here we go. And you know what? Before I even get started with speeding it up, let me show you a quick little trick. It's called a gradient mesh, and I'm going to use this for my background. I'm going to hit the mesh tool. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in some points on my, whoops, I didn't need that. Yeah, I did need that last one. add some points here. And the neat thing about the mesh tool, I can grab these individual anchors and I can actually use different swatches at these anchor points. So I'm going to grab these few. And what it's going to do is it's going to make a nice, maybe I'll take that one to 70. It gives you a nice gradient over the whole background. So you're going to notice I'm going to use this one background for my whole project. So now that I've said that, let me go ahead and get started. All right, so now that we have our soapbox printed out and we're ready to go, let's go ahead and let's work on making a 3D version of the soapbox in Illustrator. That way we can present the client both the flat artwork and a 3D file. So to set this up, first things first, I'm going to make a new artboard. So let's go ahead and let's open up the artboard panel. And I want to duplicate the flat artwork. So I'm going to click flat artwork and I'm just going to click new. And it's going to use the same settings, which were the 8.5 by 11. Now, zoom out a little bit. I need to change the position of the artboard because I want to put this one above. And I'm also going to make it the first piece of artwork in the file. So if I change the order there, that changes it. And then I'm going to rename it to 3D Views. So now, in my file, the first page will be 3D Views, second flat artwork, and then each one of the faces. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to save where I am, and now it's time to start making a 3D box. So first things first, let's go ahead and let's just make the box. So I'm going to click up here, the width is 3.5, height is 2.5, and there's a simple box. Let me turn off the stroke, and for the color, we'll just fill it with a light gray. So there we go. This is where we're starting for our 3D box. Now, to make this 3D, we have to do something called extrude. And what extrude does is it actually gives this object height or just some depth. So to do this, we're going to go to Effect, 3D, and we're going to say Extrude and Bevel. And in Extrude and Bevel, go ahead and hit Preview. And you can see when we hit Preview, look, it just changed to an actual 3D box. Now, the first question is, how do we get this to the right height? So we have Extrude Depth, and we can actually type in a dimension here. So we know our height is 1 1/4, so I'm going to do 1.25, and then I'm going to put in the acronym for inches, IN. And when I hit Tab, you'll notice Illustrator's smart enough to convert that to the point measurement, and now I have a 3D box. The next step on this is we are going to map our artwork. So you notice here when I bring this up, it gives us all 6 faces of the box, and it also gives us a library to choose from, which are symbols. So we have to get our artwork loaded into the symbols. So I'm going to go ahead, click OK for now, and let's go ahead and let's load up some symbols. So first things first, I can go ahead and close that. Let's pull up our symbols, which are actually, I have them over here. So first things first, I always love to clean out my files. So again, I have symbols here. I'm going to go ahead, select them all, and I'm just going to blow them right out of this file. So bye-bye symbols. Now I get to make my own. So first things first, you need to select your artwork. So I'm going to do the first one there. Click New. And then for this symbol, we're just going to name this Top. We can tell it to be a movie clip or a graphic. In this case, it doesn't really matter. And if you read the little note here, it says it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to leave it. It can be dynamic. And I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to do the same for the bottom. I'm going to do the same for the front. Going to do the same for the back. And the left. And finally, the right. So now we've loaded our symbol library, and if you don't know what symbols are actually really neat. You can make an object and then you can drag out individual copies of the object. And the neat thing about these copies is you can scale them, you can change them, you can do all sorts of things, but then you can also go in and actually edit the symbol and it'll change all the different instances, because we call them instances, all the different instances of the symbol. So with that loaded, we're going to go back to our box now and we're going to map this artwork. So I'm going to click the box, go over to my appearance panel and hit the 3D extrude. Click Preview and go to Map Art. So for the first face, right here, we're going to go ahead and we are going to load Top. And that looks beautiful. There is our soap. The second face, this is the back, or bottom. So we're going to load Bottom. But before I go on, let's go ahead and let's just rotate this to see how the bottom actually looks. And if you notice, we have some oddities happening here. We need to flip this artwork. See how it's backwards? So what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to flip it around and reset it, get it the best I can. It looks almost perfect. I think I'm off by a little bit. There we go. So now you notice that looks right there. Let's go to the next surface. The next surface is that backside. So again, I'm going to rotate it so I can see that backside. There we go. Map art. So on this one, that will be our right side. So on our right side, these actually need to be rotated because the top should be up because that is the bottom. Let's go to our next surface. Our next surface is the one down below. So let's pull it up. Map that artwork. That is our... Ooh, I'm kind of lost where I am. So let me go ahead. Let's restart that on the front. That way I'm seeing the bottom. Map artwork. Let's see. This is the front. And again, gonna need to rotate the artwork. Come on, there we go. And let's go to the next face. The next face is on the other side. So again, let's just rotate it. There we go. And that is our left side. Again, just rotate your artwork. And now I am down to one surface in the back there. Map artwork, and let's go ahead. That is the back. And again, we're going to give it a quick rotate. And now I have a soapbox that is perfectly loaded and represents the actual soapbox I made. And I can put it at any angle I want, but I am all about consistency when I am presenting stuff to clients. So in this case, what we're going to do is I'm going to set it to off-axis front. And I'm going to click OK. So I would send a client file. I'd send an off-axis front, and I'd probably duplicate. So just hold Alt, copy it over. And I would probably do, let's preview again, an off-axis back. So that way the client could actually see the soap in the front and in the back, and that gives them a good visual representation of what it's going to look like. Now you're going to notice some oddities when you're looking at it. You can see some guides and some weird things happening, and that's okay. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be pretty good. And again, it's representative. So now I'm going to go ahead and save where I am. Now as the last step, if I was going to send this for a client to review, I would send them just the 3D view and just the flat artwork so they could see both. So let's go ahead and let's just save a simple PDF using just 2 pages. So I'm going to go File, Save As. I'm going to tell this one to be a PDF. I'm going to hit Save. Whoops. Not going to save yet because I want to tell it a range. So here I'm just going to tell it to use pages 1 and 2. And I'm going to hit Save. And for me, I'm just going to leave the default Illustrator settings. That is fine for right now. I'm going to hit Save. And it is going to go make me a file. And I just need to find that right here. Pull up that file, and there you go. I have a perfect 3D view and flat artwork. And that would be what I would actually present the client at the end of this. So there you go. From start to finish, that is a whole project of developing a template, using 2-color artwork, and actually making a 3D view of the file.